Yay! Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's Rochelle from Artful Leadership Coaching and Consulting. And we are here for our kind of first official interview of the fall season of this interview series. And as you can see, I'm wearing my corona for Dia de los Muertos in our community, especially here in San Diego. It's a very special day of honoring ancestors, and so we are celebrating it a little bit today with our crowns, and I made mine with Luz Clayton, who is an amazing local artist who teaches us about these traditions. But I want to take a moment before we begin our interview today just to really start with grounding into gratitude. I was thinking today about I've been doing this interview series for almost 3 years now. And if you are watching this, I just appreciate you so much for being someone who is taking time out of all the things that you could be watching and connecting to on social media. You're watching this. And I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. The Artful Leader interview series has really become this wonderful place where we're tapping into the wisdom and the experience and the tips and tools of leaders who are working so courageously at the intersection of the arts, education, healing, and social justice. And this particular conversation I find is so important right now in our world when there is such a call to healing in our culture, in our world, in our society. And I love that you are a part of this conversation. If you like these interviews, please if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, share this with your friends and your community. I would love to hear from you. What do you like? Do you want more of certain topics? Do you want us to explore certain questions? What tools, resources do you want in your work? And also, if you are someone who feels you have something to contribute to this conversation, or if you know an artful leader in your community that you would love to see featured here on this series, please reach out to me. That is how this interview came to be with Elizabeth Tobias. We just started to connect on social media, and it was like, hey, let's do this interview. So I'm so excited to have Elizabeth here today. Elizabeth is an artist, an expressive arts therapist, an educator, a community organizer, and just a beautiful woman who's up to all kinds of incredible things in our community. And it's such a joy to have you here today. So why don't you hop on and just introduce yourself and tell us, who you are and what your work is about and what you've been up to recently.
Hey, well, Rochelle, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored. I feel so honored to be in your, pantheon of incredible leaders in this community, and all of the interviews you've done so far. I'm just like, I feel like I've really gotten to meet so many people in the community I haven't met, and to know more about, just a lot of incredible people out there. So thank you. I am so excited to be here. And yeah, and I mean, our connection is through the Expressive Arts Institute. We weren't in the same class, we were years apart, but it's kind of like a headquarters for so many of us, like so many just incredible, people have come from the Expressive Arts Institute. So prior to going back to school to the Expressive Arts Institute, I had been an artist for quite some time, an interdisciplinary artist, and I started to move away from creating objects and moving more into creating experiences, and kind of facilitating experiences as my medium. And I had a graduate degree in psychology, in like a holistic psychology or spiritual psychology, and yet I didn't feel like I was adequately trained or prepared to really take on the scope of existential um, issues that I was, facing in the work I wanted to do. So I had looked for a school like the Expressive Arts Institute for a long time, and just by chance I moved to San Diego, and then here it was. So
Mhm.
I went back to the Expressive Arts Institute to really go deeper into the trauma informed care, into the work, into really understanding how to facilitate both on an individual level and on a community level, like how to scale, like what we take in these very tender private spaces one on one into, like, well, how can I do that at a gallery? And how can I do that at a museum? Or how can I do that in an organization? Or, so that was kind of, my catalyst here in San Diego was getting involved in expressive arts, and then working both, in clinical settings, and then testing out my model of, like, well, how do I turn this into art shows and things at the same time? So I did all of that, and then also got involved in organizations like Rising Arts Leaders, and I've been on the steering committee for 2 years. I met Shayla James at an event, and I thought she was just so cool. So when the call went out, yeah, Shayla, I just thought, I just wanted to, check it out. And that's been a great experience, and being able to offer programming to the community through Rising Arts Leaders through the pandemic, because our steering committee had just started, and
Right.
we went into lockdown. And so I had to pivot, like learn how to pivot programming online, fairly quickly, so we could start doing something for the community. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you all just had a really big in person event, right? A creative conversation that was held at Courtyard that unfortunately missed. But tell me a little bit about those events. Like, that just sounds really cool.
yeah, Creative Conversations is kind of the signature event of the year, where we take, it's, there's different rising arts leaders orgs through the country. Like, we're one of the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And so through some of these networks, there's often like a national topic or a national umbrella of topics that are considered. These are bigger picture conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And for this one, we just kind of are, I shared my ideas on what I thought might be really impactful for the community this year, and then develop the event around that, and uplifting, Black voices in the community, and looking at artists, bringing 4 artists to the Creative Conversations stage who have been trailblazers in different artistic ventures. And so it was a really impactful event. It was so great to have the conversation that we did. We all left feeling um, really just reinvigorated, and also just to bring community together, to find a way to do that in these crazy times. There were so many hurdles to go through to figure out how to have the kind of event we wanted to have, but it all worked out, and it was wonderful. And we'll have a filmed version of it coming out soon. So if you missed it, you can watch it.
Yay! Yay! As we move forward in our conversation about like your work and some of the things that you have coming up, I'm going to take my crown off, just sort of like
Yeah.
honor the honor is sort of how special.
Yes, we honor, but it's,
Yeah.
those get a little tight on the brain.
Yeah. But oh, that just sounds so exciting. And I've also featured Shayla as an artful leader on the interview series, and she's just such a wonderful leader. I'm excited to know as well. Um, so you've really been in this exploration of healing on an individual level, on an interpersonal and community level, as an educator, as a practitioner, because you also have like a practice, right, at a local wellness center. Um, how has all of that shown up for you during this time? Like, what has your exploration of healing been over the past 18 months?
Yeah, I I think that over the last 18 months that there's there's just been so much isolation, so much disconnection, and I turn a lot to the work of Irv Yalom. That's somebody that we've studied. He's a very well-known existential um, um, therapist and writer and author and professor. And Irv Yalom talks about like the existential, like the main existential issues we all face, which are death, freedom, isolation, meaninglessness. And COVID was kind of like the culmination of like
All the
all of
things.
that at once. And then this, with everything going on in the social justice movement, I mean, it really was such a there's so much unrest and such a difficult time. And so how do we respond? How do we step forward at a time of like not just a bad day, but like a catastrophe, like a global catastrophe, coupled with this, this time in American history where we're facing the brutality of, of systemic racism. And so I just turn to what I know best and what I can offer and where I come from and my kind of grounding point, which was, you know, art and healing through art. And so so that's when the Revivance workshop that I started kind of was born, because it I could not think of what to call it. Like Rising Arts Leaders, like we had this idea just to do some virtual event, and Camille McPherson and I, who were working on programming last year, we're like, okay, and I'm like, let's do an expressive arts workshop. Let's offer something to the community to support them. And the word revivance just came to me, like, it just came to me as like, this is the right thing to call it. And in English, it's kind of borrowing from French, and it means, like what we revive, what we revive. And so I thought that our creative spirit was what needed some revival to,
Yeah.
to rebalance. Plus, we were stressed,
Yeah.
beyond, for financial stress, emotional stress, fear, like you name it. There was just so much stress on our nervous systems. So Revivance was born out of that. And then I've been just offering that online to the community, to all different ages, college students, parents, adults. I mean, not so much children. I will say maybe in that one, I haven't offered it so much to children online. I haven't connected. I've connected more with young adults and teens and adolescents and adults. But I work with children one-on-one. That's where I really feel my connection with children.
Yeah.
So I apply some of the same ideas from the workshop, but just in our individual hands-on work. So I just feel like I want to take Revivance as far as I can take it, like all the way, but I don't even know what that means yet. So so I'll figure it out and I'll see where it goes.
Yeah. And so these are workshops that you offer virtually?
Yes, they're virtual at the moment. Revivance is a virtual workshop to reduce stress, to recover inspiration, to rebalance. And they are virtual workshops. So I have the ability to work with people all over the country and all over the world. And so that's what I've enjoyed about this, because it's been a really great opportunity to connect in a more global way, in ways I never even imagined. Before, we all imagined life on Zoom. But I guess you did. You've been doing your series for 3 years, so you were, future thinking. But
yeah, that's been the gift. That's been sort of like that flip side, right? It is the gift is being able to connect with people globally. So, and you have a workshop coming up. Is that open to folks? Like, who would you like to see at that event? That's coming up.
yeah, I mean, we're doing a Revivance session on Friday kind of geared towards parents and adults, just because I think as parents, if you are a parent, especially of a child, a younger child or a teen, holding space for them through this time has been, well, it's been challenging, and we've given everything we have to our families to make sure that they're okay. And at the end of the day, a lot of the symptoms of burnout can mimic PTSD. You get the same flatness and meaninglessness, and you just kind of lose perspective.
Yeah.
So I thought this was an opportunity just to help some parents who might enjoy that,
Mhm.
and adults, we're not limited to parents, just to kind of, just to refocus your perspective.
Mhm. Yeah. Great. Well, what I'm thinking we should do is make sure any information you want folks to have on how to sign up, we'll put it in the comments of the video. So if you're watching this and you want to learn more about that, that way you can register and attend on Friday. What time is the event?
It's from 9:30 to 11 Pacific time. And if you're listening now and we don't have a comment, you can go to aspiringfamilies.com under events. That's we're offering this workshop through Aspiring Families, the wellness practice where I'm currently practicing expressive arts, and aspiringfamilies.com events, and then we'll put it in the chat as well. So yeah, they can sign
Okay.
up. And if you miss this one, I will be doing more. And this is for right now, this is my offering. This is free. This is just my way of, this is my community service, and giving, something from my heart, and offering that to the community as a way of, supporting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. This is a free workshop for
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
And now I know that you had kind of prepared some things just to give people a sense of what they might be experiencing in the workshop. Did you want to do like a little, what were you calling it? A little mini demo?
Yeah, it's like, I guess when you have like a dinner party, sometimes you'll have an amuse bouche, right? It's kind of like a little amuse bouche of just a sort of a little taste of something delicious.
Hmm.
And I mean, I don't know how delicious it is, but I think it is. And so this is, along the lines of something that I've been doing a lot with, actually, the teens right now and the young adults I'm working with. And so this is kind of borrowing from some of that work, which is in helping people kind of refocus and regain perspective right now. I'm going to invite you to share with me, who are some of your role models right now?
Well, that is a great question. My role models, in many ways, are the folks that I'm talking to on this series, are these wonderful leaders who I get to talk to who are, I'm thinking of my new friend, Dr. Kia Darling Hammond, whose research is all about thriving. And that is just making me ask all these questions about my own thriving and how do I go into organizations and support them to thrive as individuals, as communities, as, how can their students thrive? So, yeah, like I've been doing a lot of studying with Dr. Angel Acosta in his healing centered education community. And he's been an incredible role model to me of, slow work, community work, and what it really means to. I feel like there's so much talk right now about anti-racism and equity work, but I feel like there isn't enough conversation about how we do that in relationship. And so he's been a real role model to me. So those are some folks that sort of came to mind.
Yeah, so can you identify like qualities about them that you admire? Like just
Mhm.
qualities that you see in them.
Curiosity, calm, patience, um, joy, creativity, connection, um, and very, very visionary and so committed to inclusion.
Yeah. And so, how do you see those qualities in yourself?
Well, these are all qualities that I really seek to embody every day. I definitely see myself as calm. I see myself as visionary and highly committed to bringing healing to the communities I serve, um, and bringing curiosity and listening to the process. And including as many voices around the table as I can.
Yeah. So, what we're doing right now in this like practice of kind of gaining perspective and taking a pause and looking at ourselves, these are like positive projections. What you can't see in somebody else, what you don't have in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your own qualities, the things that you admire in someone else are things that you must admire about yourself. And so this kind of practice has been so helpful right now in this time where a lot of a lot of folks are just a little uncertain about who they are and what's important to them and what's unique about them and what's special. And so this opportunity to do that is just really valuable, and it's very accessible.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I wanted to ask you was, of those qualities that you mentioned, like, so first you looked at role models that you admire, then pick the qualities about them that you admire.
Mm-hmm.
And then you took that to ask yourself how you see that in yourself.
Yeah.
And of all of those, which one would you say is, and I would like to just, restate them all to you. I don't remember them all to restate them, but, being calm, being committed, you know, um, and just really doing the work. Which one do you think is the most important, like when you think about it and you look inside of yourself, of all of those qualities, what is the number one quality to you right now?
I mean, I didn't specifically say this word, but I think groundedness is a good umbrella term for a lot of those things, and I think that's one of the most important things I'm leaning into right now is just a deep groundedness.
So now that you're looking at this groundedness, if groundedness had a message for you right now, if it could talk to you right now, and it was talking directly to you, what would groundedness say to you?
Groundedness would say, I'm holding you. I've got you. I am the earth beneath your feet. Um, I am an everlasting resource. I It's funny, I'm having a hard time coming up with words because I'm having these images of like, tree roots and plant roots and networks of mushrooms and all the wonderful things that happen sort of in the ground, underground, especially during this time of year when things kind of like go underground. So that's a part of what is showing up for me in that conversation with groundedness.
Well, that was kind of my next step.
Ah!
So it was the image, then what image? And so
Yeah,
since we're doing this like in this way and not actually drawing it, I
yeah,
think describing that image, because then you can see that what happened is that your, sort of message from groundedness had some words, but it also became an image.
yeah,
Your imagination lit up,
yeah.
and you started creating, right? And how cool is that? Like, how interesting is that an image just kind of came forward? So I don't know if this kind of illustrates a little bit of this sort of process
Hmm.
of how we kind of go through with expressive arts, like we have these ways of working from so many different perspectives and through words and movement and images and poetry and doing all of that to just reignite, because our imaginations have so many possibilities. so
Yeah.
yeah, so what do you so I want to so what would you call your groundedness image with mushrooms and tree roots and that sort of forest scape that you described? What do you think your title might be for that? Always a tough one. You don't have to have a
I
title.
know, titles always mess me up, but like a magical phrase or something is like so much going on under the surface, like so many resources to tap into. Something.
So many resources to tap into. Yeah. So anyway, how was this little mini process for you?
I loved it. I loved it because as an artist who is an expressive artist who has usually been making art in community with others, this time has been tough for me because I don't do well with creativity by myself. But just having like this dialogue with you and got me going on some imagery and some things that I could definitely continue to work with. And I can see how walking others through this process could be really so fun, because I think so often when we're looking for solutions, we're looking for some sort of like, I don't know, we're looking for these very literal things. And there's something amazing about kind of going into the compost pile that's in your imagination and finding so many things there that may seem unrelated, but then they really connect to some much deeper thing that's going on within us, and a source of strength and inspiration and power that, I mean, that's what I love about working with expressive arts. So
Yeah, I mean, and I hear you and I resonate so strongly with that too. And I feel like I would always say, like, imagination is our superpower, like it's just our superpower. And the other thing is, the other aspect that I love about the work is, we can get to this place of inspiration and recovering, but we are also, like Brene Brown talks about, embracing the yuck and the suck, embracing the suck.
yeah.
And the way that we describe that, or the way that I describe that in art terms, is like the liminal space. Like when you're
Mm,
in this kind of in between space, when you're stuck, when you don't know what your next step is going to be, and you're vulnerable and you're uncomfortable,
yeah.
and you have to put one foot in front of the other, and nothing makes sense. And it's hard to really have like an up or a down, or
Yeah.
where to go. And so when you can just like start with you know a movement, when you can start with making a mark, when
Mhm.
you can start with breath and just listening to a song, and then finding a way to move with the song. It's like the arts give us a point of entry, even in our darkest times and our most difficult times, and to hold us with dignity and with possibility. And so that's what I love about art, is like it can contain the full
Mm.
range of our human experience. And so that's something that, like, I don't I also we also embrace in this work, is understanding, like, people are where they are, and everyone's gone through something different. So the process can kind of, the work I try to do is like, we meet everybody kind of where they are,
Mhm.
and go from there. But
Yeah.
You know, so with imagination, with this embrace, with this compassion, and this belief, I feel like it's almost like my higher power, my religion, or something. Like our creativity just is so, you know, it's just so powerful. It's such a powerful tool.
Yeah.
And then why can't we use it to change the world?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like the pandemic has highlighted that so much to me, the power of the arts, because that was what everyone went to when the world shut down, right? Was music, DJs, artists, movies, amazing TV shows, documentaries. That's where we all got our nourishment and our connection when we were cut off. And I think I love that you brought that spirituality in. I've been attending the National Guild for Community Arts Educators. They have like a 3 week long, sort of like a virtual gathering this year. They usually have an annual conference that's really powerful. And today they had a speaker, a woman by the name of Phoenix, who was talking about the importance of bringing spirituality to our work, just in the sense of that oneness, that interconnectedness, that sort of higher possibility and that transformational possibility that shows up in the arts. And so I love that you brought that up, and it's something that, especially during this time, I found myself tapping back into in a way that I hadn't in a long time. Yeah, so thank you for that. So, folks who are watching, if anything that we just demoed sounds like, oh, that would be a juicy exploration for me, please reach out to Elizabeth and find out about this Revivance workshop she's got coming up. And there are more to come if you can't make it on Friday. These kinds of practices are just so nourishing at this time. So, yeah, I want to make sure that you tap into that. Um, and Elizabeth, I know that you have also been doing a lot of exploration for yourself, for your own wellness, because of some challenges that you've been dealing with personally. Like, what is your own go-to when it's time to really tend to your own well-being? We've been talking so much about self-care this year, right? And I feel like I want to give people all these different entry points into that, so into a meaningful exploration of that. What does your own exploration of that really look like in your life?
Yeah, and something quick I wanted to
Yeah.
say, you know, sometimes if people are not resonating with the word spiritual,
Yeah.
I resonate with that a lot. That's my what I call it. And if someone doesn't resonate with that, then I say aspirational. You know,
Mm,
what takes you into
yeah.
a higher, you know, a higher consciousness. And so if it's not spiritual, then maybe, you know, what do you aspire to?
Mm,
And so I just, you know, it's so interesting because I've studied so many things, you know, just in, you know, me personally. I got my master's in spiritual psychology, and for my thesis project, it was about union, and
mm,
like union with myself and with my partner to be at the time. And so that, what that meant to me was doing like a yoga journey, a mindfulness journey, and a like humanitarian service journey,
mm,
and doing all of these sort of experiential educational projects. And
mm.
so I don't know, I really enjoy taking everything that I've learned from all over the place and all over these years, and then making it as universal and accessible as possible. And so, what was the question?
I love that you just kind of went in, because it was a lot of my question. It's like, what has your own practice been? What does it
Oh
look
yeah,
like now? What are you pulling on for your own healing journey and your own wellness and well-being right now?
yeah, yeah. So I am really connected to Deer Park Monastery in San Diego, the Zen monastery that was founded by Thich Nhat Hanh and the Order of Interbeing. And I learned so much from the monks with the time that I spent there, even back then, of like how to get off social media when it's overwhelming, of how to focus on the breath. I'm talking about making a line and making art. Sometimes you can't even do that. Like
Yeah.
when you're so, dealing with such grief or overwhelm, maybe your starting place is just breathing, like bringing awareness to the breath. And in doing trauma work, I went through trauma in my life. And so my education, I've been my own client, my own patient and experiment. And so I have, I discovered like a humanitarian movement, a female-led humanitarian movement back in the 90s, led by a woman named Amma, who's known as the hiking saint from India, and started doing a lot of just community work and volunteer work and getting outside of myself. And that really did something for me. Like it opened my heart, and I just felt this community of unconditional love that I was a part of that was really special and had a profound impact on my life. Um, and from that point, I don't know, it just kind of went forward then to the spiritual psychology and really wanting to um, like I just had all these friends, a few friends that had graduated from the program, and they would graduate and I'd see them with these like glowing faces. I don't know how to describe it. They were lit up. Like, I want what they've got. So I went through this program at the University of Santa Monica in spiritual psychology with doctors Ron and Mary Hulnick. And so that practice I did with you a few minutes ago of positive projection, that was something that came from, my spiritual psychology education, where we looked at negative projections, the judgments. Like that's easy for us to see. I don't know, it's actually complicated, but there's the negativity, but how do we see the positive? And so that's something that came from that. And then so there's just all these wonderful things I've leaned on through my education, last of which was, as I said, the Expressive Arts Institute. So now everything's kind of a mashup. So when I go through kind of personal crises or personal times, like after the pandemic, or as we were not, it's still the pandemic, but as we were sort of preparing to I don't know, enter a new phase after our vaccines and to see what was going to happen, and there was a little bit of a limbo at that moment. My father passed away. I lost my dad, and that grief was just and he'd have been ill with Parkinson's, so going through that illness with him throughout this time, and at times not even being able to see him because of COVID. And then something crazier happened, and this is like news flash, I'm sort of sharing it publicly, but I was diagnosed with a form of blood cancer. Well, all this happened. So then, like, wow, everything just felt very confusing to me. Like, oh my God, everything that how do I live with this? What do I do? Am I gonna, it just put my own mortality up, at the forefront in a way that I'd never dealt with before. And so, what did I turn to? And it was community. In this case, I had a lot of, sisters from the expressive arts community and friends that came together to help, co-regulate, just to process. And we gathered and we drew and we danced and we sang and we ate, and it just was like, and I just felt like it was a way of just giving me, the chance to be held, but also just remember everything I know. Because despite everything, when these things happen, it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Totally. Yeah.
So it just really gave me, that chance to put into practice, a little bit of everything. And so I feel like I've got this beautiful soup, and I love sharing my soup. I love kind of eating my own soup. It helps nourish me. And no one thing was like, no one practice was perfect. It's like there's a little bit of a lot of different things in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that metaphor of the soup, of just like so many different flavors and things together to be this nourishing meal that you can tap into and sip on at any time. That's really lovely. Um, so one of the things that I like to do as we're kind of closing out these conversations is give you an opportunity, like if there's a message that you have for folks who are listening. Most of the folks who tap into the Artful Leader interview series are folks who are, working in healing, arts, education, social justice work, with young people, with parents, with, doing some kind of work in this field. And I'm just curious if you have, what's something that you wish they all knew, for just from your perspective and your experience in this field, what's something you wish that they knew?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is cliche, but I really like trust the process has come up for me over and over and over and over again. And there's so many different aspects of it. Like, things that we talked about at Creative Conversations are the times when this work feels very thankless, like it takes, we live to work. When you're in the arts, you don't work to live, you live to work. It takes everything you have to create and to give and to kind of keep putting out there. And so sometimes that can be overwhelming, and you just have to surrender and just trust the process. And I don't even always know what that means. And that's part of trusting the process.
So true, so true. Yeah. Yeah, and that really for me, just listening to you saying that kind of reminds me of what I was sharing about that groundedness of like trusting the ground, trusting what's beneath me, trusting what I've built. Um, and that's how that message sort of hits me today. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your life and your work with us. And I think that we might be collaborators sometime. I would love that, and I love that you're in the same community as me. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for showing up today, for honoring the Day of the Dead, and leaning into all of the wisdom of our ancestors, of those who have come before, of the folks who are role models to us now. And may we honor them with our lives and with our choices and with our actions and our ways of being as we move forward into this last stretch of 2021. Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy and excited that, we had this conversation. And I didn't even remember one last little thing I wanted to share was I'm part of this group show that's opening at Mesa College called Sowing Seeds of Universal Language.
Mm.
And it kind of is on the whole same channel that, art is such a powerful um, home, such a powerful medium for us to lean into, and how we can find universal experiences and growth and change. So this is at Mesa College, and it's opening next um, Wednesday, November 9th at the Mesa College Art Gallery. And it's part of the Museum Studies program curated by Alessandra Moctezuma. And then the students of that, this is their culminating exhibit. So they've put this whole thing together, and it's a group show. And I'll be doing a hands-on sort of expressive making thing on for the opening, which is on November 12th from 3 to 7 p.m. That will be the opening event, and it will be all safe, and all guidelines will be followed if people would like to attend in person.
Awesome. Yeah, and so we'll make sure in the comments that you'll get information about the Revivance event coming up this Friday, and then also whatever info you've got about this art show and this opening experience where you'll be facilitating some hands-on stuff. That sounds wonderful. Thank you again so much. I wish you a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.